We set this up because we started talking about Generation Hull, and one of the proposals that came back in was this idea for Model City, speaking to very young children at 6 to 8 years old to get their opinions and thoughts and visions and aspirations for the future of the city.
We as a CCG thought it was really important to get involved in a project that helped children to really explore their own potential and raise aspirations and really support that sort of next generation of young people in the city.
Basically, the proposal was to do a sound design, putting speakers on the tops of buildings around the city. The idea of us being in a model village, a model city with the kids looking down on us as their subjects. And I just think kids are so engaged with space, with the way things are arranged, whether it's treasure maps or, desert islands. And I think kids are amazing sort of planners in a way about the way things can work, and we kind of underestimate that and forget that in our slightly too goal-oriented lives.
We've been going to different workshops and finding out more about other people's jobs and how they do things.
Right now, what they're having is what we call a carers fair. So they're talking to people who take care of the city about what their role is, different people like from paramedics to policemen to people who work for the water company. And so they're going to be talking to them about what they do, and then that's preparing them for later in the day when they pretend to be journalists and interviewers, and they're going to be asking them the real pressing questions about what the future of the city looks like in their profession and how care looks like in the city in 50 years.
Like a journalist is like when you have a microphone and you talk to the camera.
I think it was very good for them to actually see what exactly they are doing, what equipment they are using, how long does it take to train to do a certain job, and maybe get them to think whether would you like to do this job in the future, or how might it change when you are going to be an adult.
Did you have a job before the job that you have now?
We're recording all of them individually. Inevitably, there's going to be background noise on all of their mics, which is going to make my life a challenge, but they've each got an individual mic so that hopefully we can capture all of those ideas. Kids really do ask the best questions because they kind of cut to the chase, they get to the heart of things.
How many people do you think will start this job in 50 years' time?
This project's really interesting because because Dan is also involved in this, and so the kind of fundamental output is to have recordings for a sound piece, which is really thinking about the future of Hull as told through children and their kind of fantastical ideas. Resolve is very much about really looking at like alternatives to how people are living and doing things and practicing right now. How do we get 6-year-olds included in a meaningful way into that?
This morning we started in a hotel. There was this thing attached to the window with some tape, what you have to draw on with a partner.
Today we're looking at traffic in the city. So it's all about like what the future of the city might be in the future of traffic and transport in the city. So today we started off at the Hilton Hotel at the Doubletree, and we went up to the top floor to the rooftop bar. And we looked at the road and we looked at cars going along the road, and they drew what they saw. They drew interesting things and people and situations that they saw. And then they were asked to imagine what those roads might look like in 100 years and also what they looked like 100 years ago.
We're building what we think is going to happen in the future.
We introduced them to this idea of a parklet, which is a small park in the place of where a car should be. And they drew some fantastic ideas, really amazing, like complicated ideas that had lava turtles and hanging football pictures on bridges and all sorts. And now they've come back, explained their ideas very eloquently, and we're building them out of recycled cardboard boxes.
It's amazing seeing them engage with it and see that process actually taking place. From these sort of small seeds and this ridiculous sound design idea that somebody had at one stage, you then get into this very beautiful sort of, if you will, it's political thinking. I don't particularly want to call it political because I think it's just about being alive and trying to work out how to live with other people.
It's about friendship and connection. So like more people can connect at the same time. So if they're friends and they're friends, they can all be friends together.
I guess what we're trying to do here is to get the younger generation to try and come up with solutions that our current generation don't have them. And it's actually a bit refreshing to hear about it from 6 to 8-year-olds, because they're the ones thinking of flying shoes, for example. We're trying to get them to think about how flying shoes can work with getting sick people to a hospital.
My hospital can fly and walk. Feet, windows, wings, windows.
It allows the children to use their imaginations in a different level to what they can use it at school, because it's a lot more hands-on. There's a lot more resources that they can use that, just gives them a free rein to kind of think outside the box.
It's really empowering that they get to have their say and express themselves. I think for young children, that's an incredible experience for them to be able to kind of feel that they have a voice.
I've always said that the piece should be led by the ideas that the kids actually have, which are turning out to be brilliant. I mean, it's going to be a huge amount of material to work through, and I'll need some help. But I really will listen in to everything that's being said.
When we was here with Dan, we was thinking about if the wildlife will fade away in the further future. So I thought maybe if we have more green, and when we've finished an apple, we can get all the apple seeds out and plant them, so we can actually have palm trees and fruit trees everywhere, so the poor can become healthy.
Instead of more cars, we need less cars, because it damages the world, because it will come too hot and the ice will break into water, and then the penguins won't be able to live.
The material's beautiful. I mean, the piece is driven by the children's voices. I sort of imagined the street with speakers on top of the buildings, with the voices coming down, as if giant children were looking down at a model village. It's a sort of a three-dimensional painting of the world they've imagined. There are the unicorn robot-run hair salons and, animal translating devices and fantastic, beautiful, comedic things. But there's a lot of stuff which is very moving, I think, about how we sort of face the challenges of how do we coexist in ever sprawling cities with wildlife. How do we find space for deprived people, and how we integrate as a society. I think it's a very optimistic piece.
Today we are launching Model City. We've got the children here today who were it's their voices, who we've co-created the project with Dan Jones, the artist. So everyone's here to hear the sound installation outside.
You can hear our voices outside.
I think he put them into speaker things, put them on trees and stuff, so everybody can hear them in town. We're talking about how the city can change in the future.
I think that this project is an exemplar project about working with children and young people. It's absolutely been about hearing their voices, but it also has had them thinking about what they want from their city, what they think about where they live, and what they want for the future. And so all of those things combined make it a really powerful project, I think.
What I hope is lovely for people about experiencing the piece is there is an element of fantasy underpinning the whole thing, to do with the freedom of our children's imaginations and how they don't have to be practical. But nothing great would have happened in sort of human history if people hadn't had that kind of sense of freedom.
In the future, I hope that it's so quiet that you can hear people having fun and laughing and playing.
In the future, I hope that people will have fun and hear the birds.
We should be proud of ourselves, because we're only young, and we've actually talked about what we should do and stuff.
In the future, there will be no phones.